And this video is brought to you by Private Internet Access. What's up, free thinkers? I'm here today to use logic and reason to show you why anyone who disagrees with any of my opinions is an illogical fool who doesn't deserve to speak. No, I'm just kidding. I don't like people that do that. Today we're going to talk about debate, or the lack thereof, and why people on the internet, and in particular this website, love it so much. Debate is the oil, coal, and gas of the internet. It ferments amongst the masses in Twitter threads and subreddits. Oops, we meant in X threads and subreddits. It racks up viral views for streamers like this.
I'm sorry?
This isn't true.
That water has not always been H2O?
Yeah, all you have to do is cross the Mexican border. And over there, it's aqua. That's H2O.
It circulates via thought leaders from Daily Wire hosts Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson, who combat formidable opponents, i.e. Mostly just stoned college students.
Find a better Marxist to emulate than Lenin or Stalin, mass murderers.
To the majority reports Emma Vigeland, who specializes in humiliating conservatives.
You're not citing science. You're citing government approval.
No, I'm not. I am citing.
And that's fine.
What does the government have to do with it? These are medical organizations.
Okay, sure. Fair point.
In our age of extreme hyperpolarization, fostering dialogue between disagreeing factions seems like a decent idea. But calling online debate an intellectual endeavor feels a little generous when most of it looks like a nerdy WWE match, where you lob words instead of elbow strikes for the purpose of entertaining the masses. So what the hell happened? America has a long history of public debate as a way to keep us informed and give arguments a stress test. So has the internet ruined this valuable form of idea exchange? Is online debate actually useful as a way to refine ideas? Or are we just wasting our time when we tweet our sickest burns at PragerU? Okay, so let's try to figure this all out in today's video. Did debate me bro culture kill debate? Okay, before we dive further into the debate, I wanted to give a shout out to this video's sponsor, Private Internet Access. Private Internet Access is a VPN. What is a VPN, you ask? When we do stuff on the internet, we're putting a lot of data out there, and it's pretty easy for people to get it. Now, a VPN, a virtual private network, helps keep us safe and secure when you're doing whatever weird thing it is that you do on the internet. Would you go outside on a really hot and sunny day without sunscreen? Of course not, because you know that it's dangerous and it's bad for you. In this case, having a VPN is like a bunch of SPF for your browsing and your internet activity. Now, I'm a huge fan of VPNs for all the safety stuff we talked about, but mostly for fun stuff. I really like a lot of British TV shows, and it's hard to watch that stuff here, but with Private Internet Access, I'm able to tell the internet that I'm actually in England when I'm not, and I can use BBC iPlayer to watch all my favorite quiz shows and British real estate shows and British crime dramas and British cooking shows. You get the point. Now you might be wondering, but Michael, I have lots of different devices that all run on lots of different software. Surely Private Internet Access won't work on all of these. Wrong. It's available on all platforms, including Windows, Mac OS, Linux, Android, iOS, and it's not just all of your devices. With one subscription, you can protect your entire household. And Private Internet Access is truly head and shoulders above other VPNs. They never record your data, and they have a no logs policy. And if you click the link in the description, you can get Private Internet Access today at 83% off the regular price. That's $2.03 a month, plus you get 4 months absolutely free. It's a pretty good deal. So check out the link in the description. Stay safe when you're on the internet. Check out Private Internet Access. And now, let's get back to the show. Now, to understand debate in America, it helps to look at our former unelected overlords. In England, the parliamentary system started developing rules for debate in the 16th and 17th centuries, which back then included an emphasis on politeness and staying on topic. Now, during the Enlightenment era, an emphasis on reason and rationality and the development of a middle-class public sphere spread the thirst for a good debate amongst the common folk. Now, the nature of debate in America, like so many things about us, can actually be traced back to that parliamentary system. According to journalist and author Tom Chapman, our Congress developed as a means of representative debate wherein congressmen were seen as gladiators for their constituents. Now, from our earliest days, the ability to debate was essential to any sense of agreement about our institutions. While debates on the Congress floor at the time certainly weren't always civil, and politicians did dabble in literal canings and duels to the death, their actual rhetorical arguments were focused and substantive. Now, notably, in early America, most of the real nasty political rhetoric that might sound familiar today was done by partisan newspapers rather than openly by politicians. From the Revolution through the early 19th century, congressional speeches and debates were the central source of information for Americans, and newspapers graded these speeches on their eloquence and persuasiveness. But by the mid-19th century, debate spread back to the people via the Lyceum movement, which was a widespread attempt to cultivate informal educational opportunities for white men who couldn't afford college. It quickly evolved into a forum for debate where scholars and public figures would travel the new railroad lines, spreading their political ideas to the masses. Also, join our Patreon so that we can have enough money to stop making YouTube videos and just send me around the country on the rail to give speeches in your hometown. There's a link in the description, check it out. However, according to Chapman, entertainment began to overtake more reasoned debate, and by the end of the Civil War, Lyceum speakers were more concerned with amusing and delighting the audience than with edifying potential voters. Political speech is entertainment? Who's ever heard of such a thing?
I don't know about you, but I'm having a good time. It's crazy.
Still, there was an appetite for rational debate, as evidenced by the famous Lincoln-Douglas debates, which spanned long hours, attracted audiences of 10,000, and focused on rigorous argumentation, albeit with some personal attacks and misrepresentations. Overall, though, in the friction surrounding the Civil War, bombastic rhetoric became the name of the game. As Chapman writes, no longer could a distinction be drawn between the performer on the lecture circuit and the politician on the stump, and congressional debates were seen more as duels than intellectual discourse. Again, doesn't it kind of sound familiar? Well, we can't address every era of debate in American history because it's simply too complex a web. But suffice to say, American history has been an ongoing, ever-evolving tension between debate as a civil exchange of ideas and debate as often uncivil entertainment. Repeatedly, times of social divisiveness and technological change usually have provided the impetus for debates raced to the bottom. Take 1960, when Kennedy v. Nixon became the first presidential debate to be televised, turning men arguing into a nationwide spectator sport. These debates were replete with repetitive stump speech riffs composed by the relatively new phenomenon of speechwriters. Ironically, Nixon's biggest tactical mistake, according to Chapman, was actually trying to thoughtfully answer some of the questions. Starting in 1966, conservative columnist William F. Buckley rode that wave of America's fascination with televised debate on his show Firing Line, which for 33 years balanced reasoned argumentation between intellectuals with rhetorical fallacies and bombacity, now classic strategies of today's debate bros. Television turned debating into a war of often abrasive and uncivil soundbites. And by the time we were treated to the internet's first real, homegrown president,
I'm gonna have to scare the pup.
Debate was basically all about performance. The focus of winning the argument by any means, untruths or insults included, had supplanted entirely proving the merit of your ideas.
You know, it's a great cure for being super duper hot outside? Being a first world country. Amazing.
By the 2000s, programs on 24-hour news channels fully leaned into what Stephen Colbert dubbed truthiness, a predilection for facts that feel true even if they aren't true.
I don't trust books. They're all fact, no heart.
And indeed, this has defined debate in the internet age, kneecapping its original role, which was to logically examine and question our views and beliefs. And what television debate fomented picked up even more heat in the podcast space, most notably with folks like Joe Rogan debating guests on conspiracy theories and pseudoscience. Meanwhile, streamers debate YouTubers for hours. And none of these modern debaters seem interested in changing anyone's mind or sometimes even talking about the subject they're supposed to be debating. Instead, the goal is to win a debate by dominating their opponent into submission for clout. If the goal of debate has changed from challenging ideas to winning, then trivial tactics like citing facts or posing logical arguments, well, no longer works. On both sides of the political aisle, debates now use sophistry, i.e. engaging in fallacious arguments with the intention of deceiving others. White House advisor Kellyanne Conway was merely saying the quiet part out loud when she coined the term alternative facts, in which the truth is subjective and the narrative is all that matters.
You're saying it's a falsehood, and they're giving Sean Spicer, our press secretary, gave alternative facts.
This isn't new. Modern debaters are using a playbook that's so old, it's written on wax tablets. Now, the ancient sophists believed that man is the measure of all things, meaning that reality is up to subjective human judgment. The ultimate contrarians, sophists theorized that the truth is irrelevant, and only the quality, or better put, the perceived quality of the argument is what matters. Now, in other words, fake it till you make it, and if you're good enough at arguing to make us believe it's true, then congrats, you win. Now, while ancient philosophers sought to cultivate and embody wisdom, often through a sort of self-interrogation, sophists were more interested in winning arguments for prestige, power, and fortune. Politicians, lawyers, and tired parents have embraced this mindset for thousands of years, but today it's become particularly potent for debate bros. In such divisive times, it's easy to feel like persuading people is futile, but persuadable voters still swing elections. However, it's unlikely folks will be persuaded by something like this.
For a second, it's also a country, because you're only talking about America, because you're American, you don't see outside of the world. That's fine.
I'm Turkish, actually. I grew up in Turkey.
That's not the point. That's not the point I'm making.
So despite their namesake, why are debate bros so bad at debate? Well, let's try to explain it, while we're here. We might as well. So rule number one of being a debate bro is that, get ready for it, it's not actually about debating, bro. Now, the arena of debate isn't a forum. It's a stage, and arguments are won by performance rather than substance. Writer and scholar Moira Weigel explained that while she considers substantive disagreement important, social media is a terrible medium to reach productive resolution of disagreements. However, there's no better medium than social media for boosting your brand by dunking on your opponents and shooting out snappy sound bites.
Are there no godless artists and poets?
Well, there are artists and poets who think they're godless.
Now, Ben Shapiro admits to as much, almost verbatim.
So the only other reason that you should ever have a conversation or be friends with anyone on the left is, and not even be friends, is if you are in public in front of a large audience, and then your goal is to humiliate them as badly as possible.
So to earn the respect of their communities and gain more followers, debate bros argue their opponents into submission. They also challenge journalists or experts to debates. When the expert declines, because let's be honest, ain't nobody got time for debates longer than the extended editions of The Lord of the Rings, the debate bros conclude that they were too scared. Although in reality, it's like challenging The Rock to a push-up contest, and then he says no because he's filming Fast and the Furious 1000, and you're like, oh, you coward. The winner-take-all culture of online debate encourages a level of brutalism in which bros will do anything to prove they are the smartest, quickest, and best. The desire for these qualities, conversely, makes them far less receptive to any challenges to their points of view, which is sort of the whole point of debates in the first place, right? You should change your mind in the face of a better argument. Now, debate bros employ a variety of performance tactics to look like they've won without actually debating, like moral grandstanding, when debate bros flag and zoom in on opponents' mistakes or misspeech and then blow it up into a moral outrage. To combine metaphors, they split hairs to make a mountain out of a molehill. Now, does this completely distract from the core argument? Yes, of course it does, and that's the point, and a way to earn points in the eyes of the judges, aka all of us monkey brain folks who are more inclined to listen to whoever we feel dominates the moral high ground. It sounds a little something like this.
You, bro, listen, you're the guy who sits like this?
Over talking is another effective tactic that is exactly what it sounds like. By turning up the volume and interrupting opponents before they can complete their argument, debate bros control the pace and narrative of the conversation.
The most searched, but like
it's 18 to 28.
Just because they're the most popular doesn't mean it's the most popular category.
However, this isn't as easy as simply screaming over the person they're debating. Debaters do best when they interrupt strategically and sparingly, lest they appear like the bully that they're definitely being. Another tactic used that has a pretty awesome name is the fire hose of falsehood. This was a Soviet propaganda technique in which a large number of messages are broadcast rapidly over the news and media without regard for truth or consistency. This technique has been modified for online debate culture, in which debaters with time constraints who can't possibly debunk all their opponents' claims turn on the fire hose of falsehood to just blast their opponents with a combination of facts and bullshit until they're just soaked in overwhelmed and stunned into submission. Debate bros also love to embrace the ad hominem fallacy, in which they attack the person instead of the argument.
You've come on here deciding you really want to stick up for the chicks and maybe, one of them will drive over to your house.
Now, this is especially nasty when a debate bro attacks folks from marginalized communities because it encourages their fans to do the same. Lest you think we're only implicating conservatives, this approach is often perpetuated by leftist online debaters who mobilize fans against individuals from communities that they supposedly support. Now, this highlights that while many would like to believe that the internet is an open marketplace for ideas, it's simply not a neutral playing field. Moira Weigel, who we mentioned earlier, explained that unfortunately, people who get harassed online are not surprised because they know it from their offline lives. That is to say, they've experienced the same racism, sexism, homophobia, and so on in the real world as they do in the digital one. Debates and competing arguments are, as we discussed, the foundation of democracy. The fact that people can pull varying conclusions from the same set of facts based on their subjectivity isn't a bad thing. It contributes to a wealth of ideas that can, if debated carefully, help lead us all to better conclusions. Now, the common refrain that facts don't care about your feelings ignores the very basic reality, notably argued by Hegel, that feelings absolutely influence the conclusions you derive from facts. Now, if feelings didn't matter after all, pathos or emotional appeal wouldn't be such a crucial aspect of effective rhetoric in the first place. Now, one of the problems with online debate is that it obscures the influence of persuasion, thus creating a paradigm where someone is necessarily right and the other wrong, rather than one of subjective and often valid disagreement. What we lose by framing debate as mere competition between winners and losers is an opportunity to clarify our arguments, be open to modifying our point of view, and to learn and grow. Online debate culture doesn't commit us to expanding our thinking to encompass what's right or true, but rather to double down on how we argue that our thinking is already right or true. While online debates aren't inherently bad, the culture surrounding them is pretty toxic and doesn't promote greater learning or introspection as much as an increase in blood pressure. Now, part of the problem of why we've become so focused on being right is that being wrong can be socially punished with humiliation and irrelevance. Now, for someone like Socrates, not knowing for certain was hardly something to be ashamed of. At the very least, healthy debate requires listening in good faith and responding thoughtfully to the argument, something that some online communities sometimes mischaracterize as cowardly or weak. A debater who genuinely seeks truth, not victory, concedes points and admits when they don't have an answer. Dr. Glenn Rawson explains, when we correct others and even take time to confront and refute them, we can follow Socrates' lead and reveal our own ignorance as well, in the hopes that we are genuinely siding with humility against arrogance. Organizational psychologist Adam Grant takes this notion a step further in his book, Think Again, in which he argues that being proven wrong can actually be a life-enhancing experience. Grant recommends individuals embrace thinking like a scientist instead of a preacher, prosecutor, or politician. When we're in preacher mode, we defend our sacred beliefs by delivering sermons or ranting. In prosecutor mode, we recognize flaws in other people's reasoning and marshal arguments to win our case. And in politician mode, we try to win over audiences by lobbying for their approval. Thinking like a scientist, on the other hand, requires that we be actively open-minded by searching for reasons why we might be wrong, not for reasons why we must be right, and revising our views based on what we learn. Ultimately, even the most civil and rational debate can't solve all of our societal woes. We can't and won't always find consensus by talking it out. Sometimes debate is pointless if neither side is willing to listen. Now, all that being said, debate can be a source of valuable information. That is, if we can learn to treat pointed questions as tools for gaining a better understanding of the world, not proving that we're kings of the logic universe. So while it may be fun to watch your favorite 2 online guy dunk on his ideological nemesis, it's probably best to be realistic about how much anyone's actually gaining from the endeavor. Hey, what do you all think? Is it worth it to spend our time debating online, or should we look for more rewarding discussions elsewhere? And if you've found more rewarding discussions elsewhere, let us know where. Now, we look forward to all the civil debate that you're all going to have in the comments below. I'm excited to brew a fresh cup of coffee the morning this video comes out, and at 10 a.m. Pacific time, look with glee at the civil debate that unfolds. Now, a huge thanks before we go to all of our patrons. You mean a lot to us. And if you're interested in getting all of our videos early with no ads, extra audio and video content, Discord server, things of that nature, consider joining. There's a link in the description. It really helps us out a lot, and it helps us be less dependent on the algorithm and data and big tech and future capitalism and everything. But even if you can't be a patron, just by being here for watching, commenting, liking, subscribing, and all that other stuff, it really helps us keep the channel going, and we appreciate it a lot. And in the meantime, remember, if loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right. I'll see you next time.